tagliata, messa fuori, c'è Pirlo, ancora Pirlo di tacco, tiro, gol!
Hello and welcome to this week's AC Milan Talk podcast. I'm your host, Samit Paul, and as always, I'm joined by my good friend Jason Brand. JB, how you doing?
I'm excited, mate. Excited for the new season.
Absolutely. Serie A season is upon us. We will provide the listeners with an extensive preview ahead of the new campaign. We'll make our predictions and we'll be asking the big questions surrounding Milan. We've got some transfer talk to talk about as well, and we'll be answering all the questions too. First, JB, let's get stuck into the season preview, shall we? Obviously, various topics that we can kind of cover and get through, but the one thing I want to start with is to get your sort of thoughts on what the lineup will be this season. It ties in with a question that we got from at MDCoop3 on Twitter. He asked, now that you've seen the team play a few times, has your opinion changed on the best 11? If so, what's your ideal 11 and formation? So, Jace, I've got my formation all lined up for you. I hope you've got yours too. So
got mine ready.
Let's go through it stage by stage. I think we're both going to agree on the first aspect, and that's Donnarumma in goal.
Definitely.
Good man. Right, moving on to the defence. This is where it obviously starts to get a bit tricky. I've gone with a back four in a 4-3-3. This is down to the fact that I just want to fit all the attacking players in, and I'll get to that in a minute. But my back four consists of Conte at right back, Bonucci and Romagnoli in the middle, and Ricardo Rodriguez at left back. Have you gone with a back four, or are you mixing it up a bit?
I've gone with a back five. You know what? I do love a back five.
Yeah.
So I've got everyone that you have. Obviously, Conte on the right, Bonucci, Romagnoli, and Masuccio. Yep. In the middle, and then Rodriguez on the left.
Fair enough. Let's carry on, and then I want to see who you've dropped because somebody's missing out in midfield. Yep. So sticking with my 4-3-3, I'll go with my midfield three next. I've gone with Kessie, Biglia, and Hakan. How's your midfield looking, Jace?
My midfield, I've gone similar, but obviously Kessie, Biglia in there. I haven't included Hakan in this position. I've got Bonaventura playing.
Yeah. I can see that. Okay, and let's just complete the lineups, and then we'll get into it. And then obviously my attacking trident, I'll have Suso on the right, Bonaventura out on the left, and Andre Silva through the middle.
Fair enough. I've gone obviously my two up top. I've gone with Silva and Hakan, and I've actually dropped Suso.
Interesting. So ultimately, someone's going to miss out. Whether it's Masaccio at the back for me, like you said there as well, you've obviously had to chop and change things up top. What do you think, in your heart of hearts, Montella's going to go with? Do you think with the addition of Bonucci now, obviously Romagnoli and Masaccio there as well, do you think he's going to go with a back three, that set of three with the two wing backs, or do you think is there even room for flexibility there? Can he interchange with both mid game and easily sort of change between?
I think he can, and the thing about it is I'm still clueless as to what he'll go with. I just think with the players he's got, Rodriguez and Conte are made, just for up and down the wings all game. And I think maybe it's my slight bias to watching, other European leagues as well as the Italian league, but seeing the way that wing backs are being used in football, I just see it becoming more and more of the Italian game. So I think the players he's brought in, I think it's no coincidence they've brought a player like a Rodriguez and Conte in. I think if you've brought them in, you've got to use them the way that these players like to be used. I think having the three at the back just allows Rodriguez, especially because we've seen what he can do going forward, but also Conte as well, allows your players to get forward and playing that style that I think Montella wants to play, that attacking football, that pressing, getting high up the pitch and just putting pressure on your opponents.
No, completely agree with that, and I understand where you're coming from. It just comes down to that for me, Jace. I mean, you've got all this creative attacking talent there with Hakan, Suso and Bonaventura. I think you put them all together with the Silva up top, sort of leading the line and stringing it all together. For me, it's just a more attacking and sort of more dangerous 11 for me. Yeah, and I think he'll potentially start with the 4-3-3. I think there's a predicted lineup going around for the Europa League qualifier this week. Not too far off what I've put through. Obviously, with Locatelli in there for Biglia.
Yeah.
Just a couple of other chops and changes there, but yeah, it'd be interesting. I think I've got no issues at all with the back three there and the two wing backs. But for me, I think we're going to see something similar to last season where we had the 4-3-3. Will that cause unrest for you? You know, you said there you've obviously had to make a choice up top. Is it good to have those options? And then we've not even spoken about Kalinic, who may well be arriving this week. You've got Barini as well. Obviously, there's still talk about another striker coming in. Good to have those options and that depth, or do you think this is going to be a real tricky situation for Montella?
I think, you know, with European football, I think it's necessary to have that depth, and I think players are going to have to understand, you know, there's a lot of football to be played, a lot of tough games, especially, you know, competing for these trophies. We're not just in these competitions, you know, to make up the numbers. I think, you know, we want to win it. So it's going to be some tough games, and there's going to need to be rotation. I mean, we've seen already, you know, we had the opening of the Premier League. We saw a lot of subs come on and make big impacts. And I think these players, Montella's going to have to make it known that, okay, you may not be starting, but that's not you done. We still expect a big contribution, and there may be a time when we need to call upon, you know, in this case, I've got Suso on the bench. You may need to call upon Suso, put Hakan to the sidelines, and Suso needs to come in and save the day. And I think ultimately it could work the other way around. You know, we could rely on Hakan. I think having those options is always a positive.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think the difficult one for me was Masaccio being left out. Obviously, he's impressed in pre-season this summer, so it's obviously not an ideal world to see him on the bench. But Romagnoli and Bonucci sound good to me.
I think, sorry to interrupt, but having Bonucci in the free, we've seen what he can do, or what he did in the free with Juve. We see what he's done with Italy, because we've kind of not mentioned that he likes to get forward as well, or do you know what I mean? So having the three at the back, I think, allows him to step up a little bit and just get more involved in the play. Yeah,
no, that's a fair point. I'm kind of hoping that with Kessie and Biglia there in the midfield, sweeping things up, it can still potentially give Bonucci that license to be that playmaker at the back, if you like. That would be an interesting sort of dynamic to it. I think the key for me as well in that 4-3-3 is having Hakan through the middle. I think we saw him start off out wide early in the pre-season. He kind of gave us a bit more in the middle glimpse of what he can produce, and I think he's going to be much more effective there. And I think Bonaventura was very effective out on the left wing last season and the season before. So if Montella does go for that 4-3-3, those are the kind of positions I'm looking at and thinking you're going to have creativity from all angles at that point, with Suso on the right as well. So it'd be an interesting call, Jace. Obviously,
looking forward to it.
Absolutely. I think we're going to get a big indication on Thursday, but Romagnoli's coming back from injury. As we mentioned there, Kalinic may be coming in and a couple of other signings, if potentially, or who knows. But yeah, there's going to be some decisions to be made there. And 5-3-2, 4-3-3. I've seen some people go with a 4-3-2-1 as well. So there's some certain formations flying around. So up to Montella to string everything together. But no, all good. We shall see. Moving on to predictions now, Jace. Let's start off with where Milan are going to finish for you. Give me your top 6 if you can, focusing on Milan's how you think they're going to get on. But how do you see Serie A playing out this season?
Well, we're starting from top, or we start from 6? Starting from top. It's difficult to bet against Juventus, obviously, given what they've done the last 6 seasons, and with a big bulk of their team still been there, and they've added a few fresh faces, and obviously Allegri's still there, coming off the back of 3 league titles. So I've gone with Juve to win the league. Yeah,
fair enough. I think I've got to agree. I know there were people asking questions after the Super Cup game against Lazio, and that's fair enough. There were some areas of concern there for Juve, but for me, they're still the team to beat. And like I said, they have lost key player, obviously in Bonucci coming to us, but I think they've still got the strongest squad, and over a 38 game season, I think they're still a formidable unit. So, yeah, I've gone Juve top, second place.
This is a difficult one, and I may be, a bit more hopeful than, analysing this, but I've gone with Milan second.
Nice.
Yeah, I think, we added a lot of strength to the squad, added in places where we needed to add. And I think having Bonucci there, the amount of times he's won the Scudetto recently, his leadership, I think that's a big part of what was missing, having that steady head in the dressing room to help guide the players. So hopefully, I think, I agree with you, Juve do have the best squad. I think our squad is up there as well. And with Bonucci involved, I think we can definitely push Napoli and Inter for that second spot.
Certainly hope so, Jace. I'd be absolutely thrilled with a second place finish, but I've personally gone for Napoli second. I hear everything you're saying, and fingers crossed that does happen. But for me, they've just got that added benefit of having a settled squad and a settled 11. I think that's going to be key this season. Who knows? I could change my mind after a few weeks if Milan everything clicks and everything gels immediately. Then hopefully, yeah, if we can push on. But for me, at this point, I've got to think it's going to be a Juve Napoli 1-2. And then moving on to my third place, which is Milan. But best case scenario for me at this stage, I think that I personally don't think they're ready for a title challenge, but I do believe that they're good enough to get that third spot above the likes of Inter, Lazio and Roma. And I don't personally think they'll drop out of the top four this season. So for me, Milan third. How about you? Who's in third place?
I've gone reverse of you. I've got Napoli third.
Yeah.
I agree with all your points. I mean, Napoli are a great team. And, they're up there last season. They're up there or abouts, pretty much all the time. So I expect more of the same. I'm just hoping, that Milan can squeeze them out. But yeah, Napoli for third, I've got.
Sounds good. And far as the minnows go, Jace, who have you got in fourth, fifth and sixth?
This is really difficult because I do think, these spots will be really tight. I've gone Lazio. I think, they're up to see. I know Inter making some moves and obviously Roma are always strong, but I'm sticking with Lazio.
Good man. I can see that argument, especially the job that Simone Inzaghi's done over the last 12 months is pretty special. So, no, fair play. I've just got a really bad feeling, Jace. I think Inter are going to get that fourth spot. Again, it's a Spalletti factor for me. I'm not overly excited or thrilled about their transfer market this summer. I don't think they've done amazingly well, but yeah, there's just something about the Spalletti coming in and kind of organising them and getting them playing his style of football kind of makes me think that they'll be challenging for a fourth. So I've gone Inter fourth, Lazio fifth, and then Roma sixth. Again, Roma just haven't really been that excited by their summer window. Lost Salah, Di Francesco's come in. Question marks over how he's going to handle big job there at Roma. So yeah, Inter, Lazio, Roma for me.
Yeah, I've got so I had that. So I've got Inter and then Roma fifth and sixth. So yeah, same points really. I haven't been impressed with their transfer windows, but I mean Inter's still kind of been linked with a few big names. If they can pull anything off at this late stage, then that might change things. But yeah, currently I think they haven't done enough in the window, and I'm putting Inter and Roma fifth and sixth.
Good man. One last question on that. If, for example, let's just play fantasy football for a second. I know we've discussed it previously, but if we add an Aubameyang before the end of the window, does that significantly change the gap, or does it even see? Would you even say Milan leapfrog Juventus in that situation?
Potentially. I mean, he's a proven goal scorer, which is what Juventus have. And although I do think Andre Silva's a good purchase, he's not quite proven to that level. So if we did add someone of the quality of Aubameyang, it could be that final piece we need. Goals win games, and having him in the team, paired with our improved defence and our midfield, I think we could challenge Juve.
Certainly could. Well, we'll get into the odds of winning the league in a second, but just to give you the poll results, 36% of those who voted said we're going to finish third this season. 24% went with first. 22% went with fourth or below, and 18% went with second. So think they're siding with me on that one, Jace. I think we'll go with a third finish, but we shall see. Yeah, it's interesting. I didn't think that many people would go with first, but there's obviously some very confident voters out there, so we shall see. Odds to win the league, Jace. So most bookmakers have got us at 6-1 or 7-1 on for the Serie A title. Fair odds for you, or do you think that's kind of generous? Do you think that's should we be shorter than that, or is that just about right?
I think it's fair odds simply because of where we finished last season. I think so. It's difficult, to pick out a team that finished fifth and suddenly bump their odds up because they purchased a lot of players. I mean, it's kind of in the balance when you purchase so many new faces in the squad. It could go amazingly well. It could, like you say, you need that settling in period sometimes. And I think if we have an amazing first two games, I think those odds will become significantly better for us to win. But I think at the minute, I think bookmakers are kind of hedging their bets, as it were, to just say, we don't know where this is going to go.
Yeah, no, absolutely, I agree. Just to kind of give everybody a bigger picture, so Juve are still favourites, Napoli, then Milan, Roma, then Inter and Lazio, so kind of following a similar theme to us, just a couple of changes there. But yeah, I think it's the fair odds. I would put Milan, like I said, there in third, favourites to win the title. But yeah, I mean, it's hard not to get excited. The thought of an Aubameyang coming in, if that does happen, he wants it. I think he's just waiting, apparently, by his last Instagram video. But if we bring in an Aubameyang, then I think that's a game changer. I think you could. I'm not going to sit here and say yes, we're 100% candidates, we're going to win the title, but I think that bridges the gap significantly. It's like the missing piece that we need. So anything could happen at that stage, I think. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. 2 weeks to go and see who else comes in. But no, good man. Looking at individuals now, we're going to start with a positive, and I'm going to ask you for your pick for the biggest star of this season, your prediction for that one.
It's got to be, we've talked about him a lot on this podcast and we've bigged him up. It's got to be my man, Kessie.
Of course, it has. Good man. You think big season ahead for him?
Oh, definitely. We've seen pre-season what he's capable of. We saw last season as well. And, he's just getting better. Every time I see him in a Milan shirt, I'm impressed by him. So hoping he can continue that. He plays a very important position in the squad. So we need to have him firing. I think if he's working, the engine of our team, I think the whole team will be raised up a level. So yeah, I'm betting it all on Kessie, really.
Good man. Well, it's hard to disagree with you, and I did, just to let the listeners know in my notes, I did say, assuming Jace is going to say Kessie, so I've gone with someone else. I'm going to go with a dark horse on this one because Kessie is the obvious choice. Completely understand where you're coming from, and I think a lot of people would say Bonucci as well. He's obviously going to be massive for us this season, but I've got a funny old feeling about Hakan, Jace. I think once he's fully fit, and we've kind of seen glimpses of what he can offer, his quality on the ball, that creativity, obviously the set piece specialist and the danger from that side of things. I just honestly feel he's got a game to suit Serie A, and he'll be, as long as he gets that right position in the midfield, gets a good run in the team. I genuinely believe he can be a real driving creative force in our side. So I'm a bit left field. I know it's a bit of a long shot, but I do believe Hakan's going to be a very, very astute signing. So
yeah, it makes sense. I mean, like you say, the assists and his creativity could make the difference. So yeah, I think that's a good shout.
Good stuff. Yeah, I'm glad that. Reassuring there, Jason. I thought I still might get panned. I don't know. We'll see the response to the video. But yeah, fingers crossed for my boy Hakan. Poll results: 51% went with your boy Kessie. So you'll be pleased to know. So yeah, I completely see that. So that's fair enough. Bonucci in second place with 24%. Bonaventura with 19% in third. And 6% went with other, with a couple of shout-outs for Biglia. Only concern I've got with Biglia, Jace, and we spoke about him last week prior to the game, and how he picked up the injury and Locatelli was coming in, but injuries are a big problem with him. He's missed a fair amount of games over the last few seasons for Lazio. We've argued why he's going to be so important, because he's going to string everything together and he's got an absolutely crucial role in the team, but injury concern is a big one, and that might well that kind of reflects, I guess, in the voting. But that's probably going to hold him back of not being the star man this season, I guess, if anything.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, he's suffered over the last few seasons. So if he can't play, he's extremely talented. But if he can't play, he's no good to the team. So that could be a factor. I'm hoping this isn't a serious injury and he gets back, as soon as possible. But yeah, that could be a major factor in how successful his first season is.
Exactly. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see on that one. But Kessie, that seems to be the popular choice. So obviously we've seen enough of him in pre-season to know that he's going to be quality. See if he can sustain that over the course of a whole season. We should be in for a treat there. So good stuff. Let's see how it goes. Next one, flop of the season, Jace. I don't think I have to give you two guesses as to how the poll results went. I think it's a bit harsh, but it was very predictable. 57% of the voters went for Borini. 29% went with Silva. 6% went with Hakan. And 8% went with other. I'm a bit stumped on this one because I understand, yes, he's not a popular choice, but with the expectations as they are for me, they're not massively high when it comes to Borini. I'm not expecting him to be, a world beater. But having said that, I just don't think he's going to make, that big of an impression to silence the haters. I think he'll come on, he'll do a job, he'll fill in like he's been doing in pre-season. Montella clearly likes his versatility, but for me, he'll just become the scapegoat when things aren't working, and ultimately he won't get the credit when he does well. So, I will add that I do have my concerns with Silva early on. I think he's going to take a couple of weeks at least to kind of settle in and get used to his teammates to start with, let alone the new league and everything. But I completely understand the Borini shout. So I guess I'd have to agree and go with Borini's probably going to be the kind of flop of the season, if you like. Do you agree?
Yeah, I do agree. It's a difficult one because he only costs like 5 million. Yeah. So what can you expect? And he's not there to be, our star in centre forward. He's just there in case we need him, really. Yeah. So I do think his impact will be underwhelming. So I guess in that sense, he would be cast as flop of the season. But I think for what you've paid and for what's expected, I don't think he'll under deliver on what we expect. And I think the key thing is that we don't expect very much, really. So I guess flop of the season.
Using that logic then, do you see why 29% went with Silva? Well, obviously I hit out at the critics a couple of weeks ago for giving him stick early on. It's far too early to start judging him and giving him grief. But with the price tag, with the expectations, is that where that kind of logic comes from with Silva?
I think so. I think, if he doesn't get 20 goals, it's going to be a disappointment in a lot of people's eyes. He may play amazingly. He may get into, double figures, the high teens, but I think people have this expectation that you spend a certain amount on a forward and you're guaranteed, 20 plus goals. I don't think that always happens. So I'm hoping, touch wood, I'm hoping he does hit that mark. But if he doesn't, I can see a lot of critics ready to kind of write him off.
Yeah, I can see that happening. What's a respectable tally for you in his first season in Italy? Because I'm going to give a ballpark figure and say 15 goals for me in Serie A. I think if he gets 15, he does what we've seen, from him for Portugal with the link-up play, the pressing, the all-round game. I know some people don't like hearing that. It's a striker, he's there to score goals. But 15 goals and, a mature sort of season showing that he's got the quality to deliver and be a leading figure moving forward. I'll be pretty happy with that. Is that fair enough, or do you need more from him?
Is that just in Serie A? Or
just 15 in the league. Yeah. 20 plus in all competitions then, but 15 in the league.
I agree. 15 is a good number, and just to add to that, last year, Kylian Mbappe, everyone's clamoring over him.
Yep.
He scored 15 goals in the French league, so. If he's worth 200 million, if we get a striker to score 15 and he only costs us 30 odd, I think we've done the best business of the window.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's fair enough. No, good stuff. Let's fingers crossed for Silva. Like I said, got some unfair criticism in his early performances. So got a goal last week. So fingers crossed that boosted his confidence and he can build on that and push on. So I don't really want to be hearing his name involved in the flop of the season conversation, Jason, in a few months' time. Yeah. So we'll see. Good man. Moving on to the next category, I want to get your pick for Young Star of the season first, please.
Young star, it's got to be Catrone. I think I'm hoping he breaks through, gets his opportunity to come through, and it depends on whether, we talked about last week, whether or not he'll be with the squad or whether he'll get loaned out. I'm hoping he stays and he gets his opportunities, whether it be in the Europa League or just the odd cameo appearance here. I think he could pop up, with his energy, pop up with some important goals or important assists.
Yeah, I see that, but that's the problem with me. I had a conversation with someone on Twitter the earlier, at Costa Rica 79, in fact.
Yeah.
No, we were talking about the striker situation. Silva's there, obviously.
Yeah.
Bringing in Kalinic at the end of this week, potentially by all accounts. Obviously, there's the threat as well of Aubameyang coming in. Do you think he's going to get crowded out? And in that kind of situation with the new faces as well, do you think it's better to loan him out in that sort of environment, or still keep him and try and give him minutes where you can and hope he develops with the quality around him?
I think if Kalinic is 100% coming in, then I think you kind of have to loan him out with, like you say, Silva, Kalinic, Barini in there. But if not, then it's worth keeping him. But yeah, I take your point. If Kalinic is definitely going to be joining end of the week, then I think he's almost for his own career and development. I think it makes sense for him to go out on loan.
100%. It'd be a shame though, wouldn't it? I mean,
yeah, it would.
Like you said, you've been impressed with him in pre-season. He's done all the right things. He's scored goals. He's worked hard, and see all that, and then eventually get loaned out would be a bit of a shame. But like I said, best thing for his career at this point, and see if he can move forward. But no, that's an excellent shout, and fingers crossed he does get opportunity to stay. I've gone with my man Locatelli. I know it's not a real surprise pick, if you like. Obviously, I think listeners know that I rate him highly, and he's not a new entity in that sense. He was obviously big for us last season, but I think it'll be difficult for him to push Biglia out. Obviously, Biglia, when fit, will be first choice, but Locatelli, for me, has got that opportunity there to come in as the understudy, give him competition, and hopefully get a lot of games this season. And I think we've seen in the last couple of games, he's impressed. He looks more mature. He's doing better defensively. He's more accurate, more articulate with possession. And hopefully, fingers crossed, Montella and Sosa are now nothing more but making up the numbers essentially behind those two. So for me, I think all the makings are there for Locatelli to kind of step up another level, if you like, and establish himself in this squad. So fingers crossed that happens. Can you see that happening, or do you still see Biglia obviously first choice when fit, but will Montella continue to kind of rotate with Montella and Sosa still knocking around?
I think, like you say, with the injury, if Locatelli uses that as an opportunity to almost try and cement a spot in the squad, I think if he's playing well enough, it would be really damaging for his development if Montella did, just boot him out as soon as Biglia, was fit again.
Yeah.
I think, he needs to be rewarded on merit. So he does have a great opportunity. I do still think there will be rotation, but it's about when he gets his opportunities. If he can take them and prove to Montella, almost make it impossible to be dropped with how he's playing, and not just his ability but his attitude. I think if he shows the right attitude, I think it'll be difficult for Montella to drop him.
Absolutely. Fingers crossed, Jace. Let's hope he can stay in there. I think probable lineups for the Europa League playoff. He's there. He's been picked above Montella, so let's hope that actually is a reality later this week. So fingers crossed on that one. Right, Jace. Moving on to the next one. Again, I think I know what your answer is going to be, but I'll get your pick first. But the best summer signing: 10 new players in total so far, maybe 11 by the end of the week. But your best summer signing prediction?
I've got to stay consistent. I went for this guy as my star man of the season, so he's got to be my star signing. It's Kessie.
Good man, fair enough. I'm going to argue Bonucci's case, and I'm going to see if I can sway you, but I'm pretty sure I probably can't. But just looking at the Bonucci signing, again, obviously it's nothing surprising, it's nothing new to listeners. Everybody knows what he brings to the team, but that real sort of sense of leadership, winning mentality of what he's done at Juve for the past 6-7 years. He's just a proper defender, Jace. Get his head on the end of crosses, can obviously tackles, not afraid to get stuck in, timing, of interceptions, ability to build from the back and move forward with the ball, like you mentioned earlier. It's just everything we've been missing at the back now for years. So for me, yeah, again, like I said, no surprise, but I think he's going to be absolutely massive for us this season. Obviously got the captain's armband, so expecting nothing but big things from Bonucci this season. But for you, Kessie still going to outshine him?
I see where you're coming from. I mean, Bonucci's such a big name.
He's wavering. He's wavering.
Such a big name, big character. And I do feel he'll be majorly important to anything that we do this season with, like you say, his experience and his leadership. But I don't know. I'm on the fence with this one. If I could pick them both, I'd pick them both. But I'm gonna stick with Kessie, I think.
Fair enough. No, it's all good. It's all good. I thought I had you there for a second, but all good. No, that's fair enough. Hopefully both of them shine, and I genuinely don't care, to be honest. As long as they both perform and the rest of the boys do, then it's all good. Let's hope all the summer signings produce the goods. Good stuff. Jace, the last question the poll that I put out on Twitter was regarding Vincenzo Montella. Simple question: will he still be in charge this time next summer? 81% said yes, 19% said no. It's a difficult one in the sense that he has to deliver this season. We spoke last season about he didn't have the players that he wanted to play his brand of football. Give him a summer transfer window where he can bring his own personnel in and see what he can do. Give him time. He's been given everything this summer. The players fit his system, fit his style of play. He's got what he wanted, and now it's time for him to deliver. If he doesn't deliver, i.e. get us back into the Champions League, for me, I think it's not a question of if he'll go. I think he will go if we don't get Champions League football. I want him to stay, obviously, and I hope, desperately hoping that we get that Champions League qualification. But do you echo the thoughts of the poll? Are you confident that he'll still be the man next summer and he'll produce the goods and get us back into the Champions League?
Yeah, I am. Really, I do agree with you. I think if he doesn't make, or if we don't make the Champions League, I do think he'll be out. But I'm pretty confident with his management style, his playing style, and the players that we've brought in. I'm pretty confident that we can make the Champions League. So I do expect him to be there, and I expect us to be playing Champions League football next season.
Perfect. Well, let's hope so. That would be the ideal end to the season. So, you've gone for a second spot. I've gone for third, but either or, get back into the top table of Europe, and I think it's happy days and a successful season. Obviously, see how we do in the Europa League, but that will be another bonus, hopefully. But good man. We'll come back to this pod in about 9 months' time and see how well we did. But time will tell. Good stuff. Right, Jace, let's move on to transfer talk. There are two main stories which we've kind of alluded to already, but just to take Carlos Bacca into account first. Reports now, strengthening by the hour that he's in Spain tonight, which is Tuesday, and he's all set to sign for Villarreal this week. But talk that it's going to be a €2.5 million loan with an option to buy for €15.5 million. Good business for you. I know we've spoken that it's time for him to move on, and I've never I'll talk about him in a minute, but just the figures, the option to buy rather than an obligation to buy, does that all sit okay with you, or do you think Milan could have done better?
It's a difficult one. I was expecting better, but the fact that no one's come in with any solid offers as of yet, I think maybe they've tried to shop him around and no one wants to take him. So this is probably the best that we could have gotten, and given the business that we've done so far, I think if there was a better deal out there, I think we would have been able to find it. So I am a bit worried about with the option, because it depends on how much Bacca wants to be back in Spain. I mean, if he's motivated, he'll have a good season, and Villarreal will be kind of biting our hands off to take him. But if he's kind of dragging his heels, if he doesn't want to leave and he doesn't perform, then Villarreal have no obligation. They can just wash their hands of him, and we're stuck with him again. So that's the only thing that worries me. But these fees aren't too bad, I guess. Get him off the wage bill for a year, and then hopefully make up some of that transfer fee on him with the sale.
100%. That pick up on your point. That's real telling for me. The fact that we haven't got any real solid offers. That kind of says a lot to me about the interest around Europe in him, and what he gives to the team. So that was quite surprising, but that's disappointing as well, I guess. But yeah, I'm happy with the figures. I think 17 to 18 million euros is more than I guess I expected, really. But I guess the valuation could have been higher. But no, I'll take that. The only issue I've got is the option, like you mentioned. It's just I'd have been a lot happier if it was an obligation and we could really move on rather than have that uncertainty as to whether or not he might be coming back next summer. So that was disappointing. But as a player, are we going to miss him? Because I personally, you know me, I'm pretty happy to see him go. I think he's a top striker, don't get me wrong. But even though everything wasn't his fault as to why he struggled, it's particularly in the last season, I just feel as though there's strikers out there, i.e. Kalinic, who can do what he does in terms of have a respectable goal tally, but also bring a lot more to the team, whether it's build-up play, pressing, doing all the dirty work. I just don't think that was all part of Bacca's game, and it hurt us, and it was pretty evident last season. So time to move on from him and look for someone new, in your opinion. Is that a right move?
Yeah, I think it is. Like you say, there's other players out there that will bring way more to the team. It's not like he's irreplaceable at all by any means. So I think getting him off the books and getting someone else in who can deliver more is definitely the right move.
Yep. Speaking of that man, Kalinic, reports, 25 million euro move could be completed on Thursday. For you, Jace, is this a good like-for-like replacement for Bacca? I know some fans still absolutely hate the idea of it, but I think it's a sensible signing and I'm all in for it. I wouldn't say I've got zero issues with it, but for what it is, I'm pretty content. Like I said, he does all the things. Some people are quite bored of hearing this, but I think he fits Montella's system and idea of play perfectly. He's just, he'll run the channels, he'll link up play, he's got a good first touch, bit of pace about him, hold up the ball. Again, respectable goal tally, nothing to shout about. I don't think he's magically going to turn into a prolific striker in this team next season, but that's a lot of boxes ticked for me. And I think he'll flourish, and I think he'll help the others around him flourish as well. So for me, I think it's a great signing. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of people have expectations of a superstar name in every position, but that's not what it's all about, isn't it? You want players who, like you say, fit into the system, and I think he fits in perfectly with what we're going for. We've already got Silva. We're not looking for the main target man, as it were. We need someone who can come in, offer something a little bit different to what Andre Silva offers, and like you say, will chip in with a respectable goal tally. And I think he's proved that in Serie A, which is important as well.
Yep.
As opposed to getting someone in from a different league and kind of hoping they can adapt to Italian football. So to have him, I think is almost perfect in terms of who was a realistic option for fulfilling this role. I think we've got the best one out there.
No, couldn't agree more with you on that one, Jace. I'll just read you a quote, or a tweet rather, should I say, from @elmicchio on Twitter, and then I'll get your thoughts. He had this to say, and I completely agree with him. If Kalinic hits the 15-goal mark, then it's a definite success. He's a silky smooth big man. I'm happy with his signing, although the consensus isn't. Also, I do think he'll be the starter for the team. Maybe I'm wrong, but a great addition to the squad. I know we spoke about Silva, respectable sort of tally for him this season, but again, Kalinic, 15 goals, as I mentioned earlier, doing all the other bits and pieces as well. It's a pretty successful season for another striker. Add that to the goals elsewhere in the team. That's not bad, is it?
Definitely. I mean, that would be probably more than I'd expect to get from him, like you say, because he's kind of there to add other things as well as goals. But yeah, 15 would be a really respectable tally. I think quite exceptional.
Yep. No, agreed. And again, like I said, a lot of people aren't happy with this one, but I don't really care. I think it's a sensible, decent, solid signing. Again, it's nothing groundbreaking, but I think not every signing can be, and this is it's a good addition. So fingers crossed he can silence those critics and doubters. Right, Jace, Twitter questions. We've had a few, so let's get through. Thank you for sending all your quick questions over, guys. Matt Robson, first of all, wants to know, how exciting is it to see a fabulous Milan midfield, and how important is it? Jace, it's an absolute treat for me. From the days of the likes of Bakir Traore, Sully Montari, a washed-up Essien, Van Ginkel, Bertolacci, Pasalic, the list goes on. We've now got a proper midfield. I think it's absolutely vital. I understand you need a strong defence, you need goal scorers in your team, but for me, games are won and lost in midfield. So to have a midfield, to boast about a midfield, Kessie, Biglia, Bonaventura, Hakan, all those guys, whoever it may be that's selected, I think it's vitally important, and I think it's going to be the hallmark of our success, even if you like, moving forward. How important is the midfield to you, and are you excited about the midfield that we've put together this summer?
Yeah, I think to answer the last question, I'm very excited about the midfield that we've got. As well, the midfield, for me, your most important area in the pitch. It's the powerhouse of your team.
Yep.
They need to help out going forward and coming back. So if you've got a weak midfield, I think you kind of always see it. Pundits talk about it all the time. They say a team came and they controlled the midfield. I think we've got the players now to go into any match and control the midfield, which is where, in my opinion, most games are won and lost.
Absolutely. It was like I said, isn't it? I mean, they chip in and do the defensive work to give that protection to the back line. If they don't do that, you'll get found out and get broken down, or get caught out by the smaller teams, as we did last year. And if you haven't got that quality, that creativity, the technical ability on the ball, who's linking up the play to the big men up top and getting the goals? If there's not enough quality in the midfield, then you're going to struggle in both aspects of the game. So midfield is absolutely crucial to me, and I think we've got a solid balance now as well. So good times ahead, hopefully. We shall see.
Yeah, I agree.
Next question. I'll let you have the honours of this one. At Milan_God on Twitter. Great name. Who do you guys believe will be the team's top scorer? There's a two-part question. It's also top assist. But for you, Jace, first, top scorer, who are you going to go with?
I've got to go with Silva, really. I think, he's going to be playing in that role up top. So I think his running that we've seen him doing, I think it may take a bit of time to settle in, but with the players around him, and I don't want to say a name because I'll answer the second part of the question before, with the players around him providing for him, I think, if he's the main focal point, he should hopefully bag most of the goals.
Agreed. I'll tentatively go with him, Jace. I think the goals will be shared out across the midfield and the other strikers, but I think, as we mentioned earlier, I think he'll pop up and get around 15 or so league goals, 20 plus in all competitions, and it'll be a successful first season for him. As we've both there alluded to, it might take him a couple of weeks just to get settled, match fit, sharpness, get everything in line, but in time, over the next couple of months, I fully expect him to emerge as our top scorer this season, so fingers crossed for him. Assists, who's your top assist man?
I'm going with Hakan. I'm hoping, from what I've seen and what I've heard, we mentioned it earlier, he is, known as an assist king, as it were, and set piece specialist. So I'm hoping with, the corners, the free kicks, and his just general attacking play, he should hopefully be getting, I was going to say getting on the end, but no, he'll be providing a lot of goals for our attacking players and for other midfielders.
No, it's a fair point. Do you know what? I think I might have to change my I've got Suso or Bonaventura here, because obviously Suso's assists last season were key, and I think he'll have another good season, provided he can get into the team, but I think he will be key. Bonaventura coming back from injury, we know how important he is to his team. Prior to that injury, he was at best consistently our best player for months and months, so those two will be up there. But you're right, I think the telling factor could well be the set pieces, as well as the fact from open play is obviously a threat with his assists and creativity, but add the set pieces to it, I think Hakan's a fantastic shout. So yeah, I might have to copy you there. I might go Hakan on that one. Good stuff.
Cool.
Next one is more of a statement rather than a question, so I'm going to get your thoughts on it. But at VA Jack Sparrow had this to say: with this attack, we'll never catch up with Roma and Napoli, that must be said. Kalinic is not a top striker and he won't score more goals than Bacca did. How will Milan fill the goal gap between them and second and third place? That is like 30 goals with no top striker. What's your thoughts on that, Jace? Kalinic not a top striker, and also, how are we going to bridge that gap without having, who VA Jack Sparrow believes we don't have a top striker up top to kind of lead us?
It's got a very good point. I mean, Roma and Napoli do have. You can point to standout players. You look at Dzeko at Roma, you look at Mertens at Napoli, and as just two to name who will get you goals. I think we're kind of hoping, as it were, that Silva can become one of those players. I agree. Kalinic is not a top striker, but I don't think he's there to be our top striker.
Yeah.
I think he's someone who, like we've mentioned, will chip in and there to win balls and kind of help Silva get more goals. So I think I see his point. I do agree to an extent with VA Jack Sparrow that we don't have that superstar striker, but in 9 months' time we may be all saying, well, Silva's a superstar striker, because I think this is his big opportunity to prove what he's capable of.
Absolutely. Listen, I understand that side of the argument, and it is everybody's got a concern going into the season, and we'll see how things play out. But I guess I just have more faith in these players than potentially that he does. I mean, including Kalinic in that. I think the load is going to be shared between the guys. I think you can get a good few goals out of Suso, Bonaventura, Hakan. And like we mentioned, I don't think it's too much to ask for a respectable tally of around 15 goals from Silva and Kalinic apiece. So the goals are there to be shared out. I don't you're right. There's no Mertens, there's no Dzeko standout individual, if you like. But I think there's goals all around the team that can be done. And I will add on top of that, I'd like to see Kessie get up there and add a few goals to his game as well. I think, we've seen that in pre-season, but I think if there is an area of his game to improve, then he can do the box-to-box job, obviously. Add a couple of goals to his game and you've got another guy chipping in with a good few goals from midfield. So is that a fair argument? I think sharing the responsibility out between those guys.
Yeah, I think it is, definitely. And just to add, teams that can successfully do that are always the most dangerous, in my opinion, because when you've got a single target man who, gets all your goals, teams know to kind of close down the space around him or make it difficult for him. But when you've got goals popping up from everywhere, it's difficult to kind of manage that. So hopefully we can get that working well. I think we definitely have the players, like you mentioned, to chip in. So if we can achieve that, I think that would be a major plus in us pushing Juve for the title.
Absolutely. I'm sure there's a counter argument, and you may well come up with an example arguing against me now. But if you look at Higuain 2 years ago for Napoli, scored 30 plus goals in Serie A. Where did they finish?
36.
There you go, 36. Where did Napoli finish in the league that season? Second behind Juve. So I don't think it's the be all and end all.
To add to that, and to poke fun at Spurs, Harry Kane, 31, no league title. Liverpool, Suarez scored 31, no league title. Also, to add misery to Liverpool and Tottenham fans, Henry, 31 goals, Invincibles, won the league.
You've had that ready. You had that all planned out.
That literally just came to head. I was doing a quiz earlier on Premier League strikers to score 30 plus in a season, so I had all these numbers in my
quality. Brilliant. No, all very fair arguments. That's fair enough. Good man. Next question was from @Ruby Naman. Thoughts on rumours regarding Antonelli to Fiorentina? Can we rely on Calabria as a backup? And two-part question. Realistically, can we try to win the Scudetto? I'll answer the first part, Jason, and I'll get your thoughts on the Scudetto question. I personally believe Antonelli is expendable. I don't know about you. I understand he's a popular figure and he can definitely do a job, but I wouldn't go as far as to say that I'd be devastated if he was to leave. I don't think he is part of the Kalinic deal anymore. There was a suggestion that he would be, but it's not the be-all and end-all if he moves on. So if he does go, then fine. But my only issue with this part of it is regarding Calabria. He's obviously not going to get his spot in his preferred position on the right with Conte and Abate there. He has the versatility in his locker to kind of play at left back, but he's not always convinced. Can you see him struggling this season with the competition for places, with the potential of being forced to kind of play in an unnatural position, albeit one that he can play? Do you think Calabria is going to be one to struggle this season?
Could be. I mean, with the players that we've brought in, like we mentioned our teams earlier, I don't think that he'd be playing a lot, as it were, but could do. I mean, I guess that's the question, isn't it? Whether or not he'll struggle to make an impact. So I guess I am agreeing. Will be very difficult for him to really, cement a spot in the team.
Absolutely, no, I agree. Again, one of our youngsters, so I don't want to see his progress stunted or him to struggle. So we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully, he can step up and give Montella a headache. But we'll have to wait and see. Realistically, Jace, can we win the Scudetto? I know we've spoken about it, but briefly, again, just with what we've got, let's not play fancy football and talk about Aubameyang or anyone like that. As we are today with Kalinic, let's say, can we try to win the Scudetto? Could we potentially be up there come next April, May?
I think we can definitely try. I mean, if you look at last season, I think it was both Roma and Napoli mathematically could have won the title with 2 games left. So I think if we find ourselves in that position, with 3 games to go, if there's still 6 points or 9 points in it, I think anything can happen. Especially with the players that we have. I believe that we've got that added extra now to go in, when games are on that kind of that knife edge where it could go either way. I think we've got that little bit extra to turn that point into 3 points or that defeat into a draw. So if we're still in it with 3-4 games to go, I do believe that Juve will get nervous, very nervous.
Yep. Listen, it's a massive gap. I think it was 30 points between Milan and Juve at the end of last season. We've strengthened significantly. We're going to be a much better team this season, no doubt about that. You can make a fairly strong argument that Juve will drop off. The extent of their drop off, we don't know yet, but we'll have to wait and see. Let's say it's not. I wouldn't say it's a realistic objective, but like you said, if we're there or thereabouts come the end of the season, then why not? Let's see how we get on. But
yeah,
time will tell. Good man. At I Am Rock Music was asking about financial fair play. So can you break down financial fair play implications if Milan don't qualify for Champions League or Europa League this season? Would they have to have a fire sale next summer? It's a lot of pressure on this season, so what's the best case and worst case scenario? Jace, so let's just rattle through the whole FFP, if you like. So Milan aren't subject to the regulations yet, as they're now involved in European competition. They weren't last season, so moving forward, they will be subject to those parameters. The point of it is to prevent clubs from spending more than they earn. Fassone's noted that the commercial side of things, the plans in China will be key to that, and obviously qualifying for the Champions League with all the financial benefits that come with it is obviously a massive part of their strategy. UEFA's club financial control body will essentially decide what happens. I believe, I'm not an expert, so I'm, go and read the UEFA site sort of manual if you like. They go into much more depth, but I believe the worst case scenario, if we don't qualify for the Champions League and we don't bring in the revenue that we're putting forward, if you like, in our voluntary agreement, the worst that can happen is disqualification from Europe, pretty significant fines, prize money being withheld, and transfer bans or players not being eligible to play in European competition. So worst case scenario, I don't think we'd have to sell anybody at that point, and that's provided obviously Young Hong Lee is still knocking around, still bankrolling everything and everything's good. But for me, I don't think it's going to get to a point where we'll have to have a fire sale and kind of recoup all the money that we can. So yes, it will hurt and it won't be pretty, but it won't be the disastrous end of the world type of stuff. So we'll have to wait and see. The key here, though, as well, is to also remember that it's based over a 3-year period, and obviously with the voluntary agreement that Milan are trying to get signed off, that will be key, because it could earn them some leeway to get themselves in order and within those parameters set by UEFA. So, yeah, I think, obviously, Jace, Champions League money, you want it. It's not something you don't want to miss out on it, essentially. So it's going to be key, but at the end of the day, I don't think it's massively defining next summer. It's not going to be a complete disaster if we don't make it, but fingers crossed we do and we don't have that headache, I guess, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think the key thing you mentioned was the commercial aspirations of the Chinese market. I think even if we do miss out on the Champions League, if correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I gather, I think if we are making enough money still, we should be okay. Is that?
Yeah, as long as
you're... Yeah.
I'm not sure what the exact figures are, because I think it varies depending on the situation, but you're only allowed to kind of make a certain amount of loss over a 3-year period. So you've got to be, you essentially, like I said, the point of it is you've got to be earning more than you're spending, essentially. Yeah,
so I guess we need to go out there, play an attractive style of football and just get a load of fans on board.
Yeah, definitely.
Really, yeah.
Sort of getting that Chinese market on side is going to be a massive part of this. So fingers crossed everything on and off the pitch goes to plan, and we won't have to deal with it. But I'm sure, as we've mentioned previously as well, Jace, for Sony in charge, contingency plans obviously in place as well. They're not that stupid to kind of put all their eggs in one basket and say, hey, getting the Champions League will be all right. Don't even have to think about it. If we don't, I'm sure they've got any good business. I'm sure they've got a plan B, no?
Yeah, definitely.
Good man. So fingers crossed. We'll see what happens. And then the final question this week is at El Mikio. What is your opinion on the bonds issue that the media were highlighting earlier this summer? Again, I'll revert back to the main man, Fasone. He was never concerned with it, and this is obviously with regards to Biglia and Bonucci missing those Europa League qualifiers. Fasone always told us there were no problems, and ultimately he was right. They both were eventually registered in what was actually the usual time frame. So yeah, I think there was nothing to be overly concerned about. The point I kind of took away from this question and the whole situation, Jace, do you think there's an element of kind of scaremongering from certain areas of the media? It makes for a good story that obviously with Milan's takeover, they were just trying to look for a reason to kind of cast doubt over it and raise question marks, and obviously people bit, and there was a lot of talk, not only from Serie A fans, but others looking at Milan spending and thinking, yeah, this might go really pear-shaped at one point.
Yeah, I think it's just a ploy to sell papers and to get clicks, really.
Yeah.
Because, like you say, it's such a kind of not well-known situation. I think as fans, you're always kind of looking for some information. So if a media outlet can kind of essentially make up a story, as it were, they know it's going to get interest because people want to hear answers. So I think a lot of it we have to take with a pinch of salt, because I honestly don't believe that the people writing these stories fully know what's going on.
No, absolutely. And I think Football Italia got the brunt of it because they ran a story suggesting that the two weren't registered and there were problems, and Milan fans jumped all over them, gave them a lot of abuse. Some of it was pretty harsh and over the line, but ultimately you're right. Like we mentioned it at the time, just listen to Fasone. If he says that everything's in line, things will happen on certain dates and there's nothing to be concerned about, then that is essentially, and as was proven in this case, that is what's going to happen. So no reason to doubt the management. They've been transparent and all is good in the world, I believe. Agreed?
Yeah, definitely agreed.
Good stuff. All right, that wraps us up then for this week, Jace. So it was a nice in-depth summer, wrap-up if you like, and a season preview, but excited for the new season?
I am, yeah. Always excited for some AC Milan football.
Absolutely. Let's get it started. Obviously Sunday night, Crotone, so we'll looking forward to that one. Got Europa League games as well, so 4 games in 10 days, I believe it is. So it's, you're going to get your Milan fix for certain in the next week or so.
I enjoy the Sunday night games. I think it's something about, being over here in England, we don't really get a lot of Sunday night football. So to be able to watch football all day Sunday, sit down and watch football Sunday night as well, it's great.
Absolutely. I think you're sport for choice as well, actually. I think BT Sport have got Inter, Fiorentina, and Crotone Milan on Sunday night. So no one wants to watch Inter. So scrap them and stick on Crotone Milan. We're happy days.
Great stuff.
Good man, Jace. Right, listeners, thank you for tuning in again this week. Check us out on YouTube if you're listening on iTunes or SoundCloud. We'll have a lot more content coming up on YouTube, pre-game and post-game. So give us a subscribe on there. And thank you for listening over the summer. We appreciate it. And hopefully you'll stick with us through what will hopefully be a very successful season for Milan. Jace, I think that wraps us up this week, unless you've got anything else you'd like to add.
Just Forza Milan, really, to me. Come on, looking forward to the new season. Let's get it kicked off with a win.
Absolutely. You beat me to the punch there. That was a perfect way to wrap things up. Good, man. Absolutely. Let's get things started and hopefully 3 points on Sunday and start as we mean to go on. Jace, always a pleasure. Look forward to catching up with you next week. But until then, nothing left but to say goodbye to the people.
Goodbye to the people.